It's Angela Irene with Aged Goodness and Budget Reload. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today is week number 1 of our Dollar Tree Extreme Eats, Cheap Eats Food Challenge, where you eat from an entire week, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, from food that you purchase entirely from Dollar Tree. We're going to start off our mornings with pancake sausage bites, and for lunch we're going to have the choice of bologna and cheese sandwiches or fried bologna and cheese sandwiches, and leftovers, and these meals should make plenty of leftovers. And this week for dinner we're going to have chicken parmesan with spaghetti, split pea soup, impossible pizza pie, we're going to have that twice, bean and cheese quesadillas, salmon with mixed vegetables and mashed potatoes, and broccoli rice casserole. All right, well, let's start with the $2 version. 1 cup of mix, half cup of water, and 1/4 cup of the syrup. We're going to give this a good stir, and then we're going to fill our mini muffin pan. All right, now we're going to fill our sprayed mini wells with a tablespoon of our mixture. All right, 1 cup of the pancake mix will make 24 mini muffins, so this will be $2. But if you'd like to add an extra $1, well, really it's 50 cents. This is half of the chub of the little sausage that we had. Just browned it up, drained it, and if you want to top each of your little mini muffins, you've got some extra protein and a little filling, a little more filling than if you just have the bread, so this will easily do all 24. 8 minutes at 350 degrees. These are done. One batch will make 24, whether you have the $2 or the $3. It is a great little handy breakfast on the go. The 1 box of pancake mix will make 72 mini pancake bites. And for lunch, we're going to have the classic bologna and cheese sandwich. You could also turn that into a fried bologna sandwich, and leftovers, because remember, we are definitely trying to use every last bit of food. Time to get our chicken prepped for our chicken parm. There's not too much in the chicken department at Dollar Tree, but they do have these cool spicy chicken strips. Nice little pop of heat here, and we're going to use that for our really cool chicken parm. I think it's going to be a nice little knockoff here. But if you are not a fan of spicy at all, they do have chicken bites. They're like chicken poppers, and that would totally work too. But I think we're going to really enjoy that little pop right there. So let's get these in the oven, 425. And there are 5 of them, perfect for our size dinner. I'm going to try to do this with one hand. Now, if you have the inclination and you can take your pasta right out of the water, you drain it, put it in a bowl, take some of your margarine that you have, let it melt in there, or if you have extra virgin olive oil, do that, and then really coat it well with a little bit of Parmesan, because those Parmesan noodles really make this. We're going to take our little cutlet here, put that on top, and of course this would be in a much bigger pan off to the side,
but because I don't want to splash everywhere I'm by myself today, so I'm gonna put that on top. Hang on, give me a sec, guys. A little more Parmesan. And we have Dollar Tree Parmesan. Oh, that chicken is spicy. It has a nice little kick, but again, if you don't like spicy, just use the popcorn chicken. It'll work just as beautifully. Add your toast sticks and you've got quite a meal going on. Hey, if you have an extra dollar, pick up some kind of green vegetable and have it on the side. If not, this is still very filling and very scrumptious.
We're going to start this soup like we do with anything we have with a bean, and we're going to open this up. We're going to dump it out. And we're going to sort it. What you don't want to do is end up cracking a tooth on a pebble. Natural products means dirt, rocks, could be another different bean or just something in there you just don't know what it is. So take the time and sort through them. It really is worth your time. Now that our split peas are sorted, we're going to go ahead and take them to the sink, put them through the colander, and give them a really, really good rinse. You don't want to go through all the trouble and then have kind of that dirt, that really, really earthy, taste. Give them a really, really good rinse.
I'm going to snag just a little bit of the onion out of that pepper and onion bag. It's for another recipe, but I'm not going to miss just this small amount of onions. So I'm going to start my soup with the onions. And then if you purchased the garlic from the Dollar Tree, which mine finally had it, I'm going to add about 2 teaspoons of this as well. And we're going to saute that just a hair. But if you don't have the garlic, just sprinkle in a little garlic powder. We just want that note. All right, we diced up that onion. It was probably a little less than 1/4 cup. Give it a good dice. Added our 2 teaspoons of garlic. If you're using powdered garlic, maybe like 1/4 teaspoon. Start with that. We're going to saute this up. No butter, no nothing. Just saute it like this. And then we will add our 8 cups of water. Now this Polish sausage has 2 sausages in the one package. We're only going to use one, going to dice it up pretty fine, and we will save the other one for another recipe. I've added 4 cups of water already. Okay, this 4 will make it 8. I'm going to put in our rinsed yellow split peas. It's nice to have yellow. Doesn't always have to be green. And then I am going to do 3 teaspoons of the chicken broth. I'm going to bring this to a boil. And I'm going to then drop the heat and let it simmer for about ½ an hour. And then we will add in our sausage, which I diced. So here's the size sausage pieces that I'm going to be using. But I don't want to add them right now. If you add them too early, they're just literally going to cook to death. And I don't want that. So I'll add those probably in about ½ an hour. And then I'm also going to add the sliced carrots to it as well. And we'll get all the flavors melding. It's been about 15 minutes. Let's take a look. Nice little simmer we've got going on there. Nice and bright. All right. Let's check again in 15. It's been 15 more, so we're at ½ an hour. And they're starting to, the small ones are starting to kind of dissolve a little. Looks like the bigger ones are starting to. let's go ahead and we're going to add our sausage. One more. Get in there. There you go. The carrots, though, you know, I opened the can and they are definitely softer than I remember them being. So I think what we're going to do is add them probably just like the last 5 minutes. It's, you know, definitely a little softer. I don't want to fall apart. So let's give this 10 minutes and we'll check on it with the sausage. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes. Let's take a look. Okay, our peas are breaking down pretty good. I think I'm gonna go ahead and give a little bit of a smash. This is totally optional. If you like yours to have, you know, more whole peas, leave it like this. I like mine more mushed. I can feel them. They still have some bite to them. So we're not done cooking yet. And again, it's totally up to you. You know, how you like your consistency. And this is also going to be a good point to talk about. Let me grab this. Now is a good time to talk about potatoes. They have 2 cans, at least at our Dollar Tree. They have the whole potatoes and then they have the sliced. If you want to add something like that, it'd be a great time to do so. I'm going to go ahead and add half of that can of carrots. I want to see what it looks like, but you know, I can tell already I think it can take the rest of that can. So I'm going to slice up the rest of that can and add those 2. And I'm going to leave it uncovered and let it simmer another 10 minutes and let's see the final tasting and see what we need to add to it. All right, it's been about 20 minutes. And after I looked at that can of potatoes, there was no way it was not going in here. So I added the potatoes. I cut them up in smaller chunks. Now, if your bag of split peas is a little bit older, and I think mine was, right now it's not looking like it's going to break down all the way. I still have a few, you know, chunks here and there, but it's really starting. Now, this is a soup that if your family really doesn't like it soupy, if there's any way you can make this like the day before, put it in your refrigerator, and, you know, it is going to turn into a, you know, a thick, like stew, because those peas are going to soak up all of that beautiful liquid. But for now, we're going to call it as a done soup here. So let me get a bowl. Take a look at all of that goodness right there. This dinner is really fast, it's really easy, and it's really easy to customize as well. We're going to make impossible pie, and with these ingredients, we're going to be able to make this dinner twice. So for our investment, we're going to get quite a bit of mileage. And as we go along, I'll tell you how you can make your own touches here. But these are the ingredients from the Dollar Tree. We have the breadcrumbs, the olives, the milk, ham, cheese, eggs, and that frozen onion and pepper mix. Oh, that is so good. The first thing I'm going to do is take our onion and peppers, and I'm going to take about half of this bag. I'm going to chop them up and I'm going to dice them up in smaller pieces. And then I'm going to go ahead and give them a quick fry. I'll give you a view of what that's going to look like. But I want to get a lot of the moisture out because I don't want all of the juice from the frozen watering down and destroying our nice texture of our impossible pie. So let's do that now. Let's get half this bag chopped up. Okay, I'm going to use half that bag and chop it up. So that's kind of what it looks like right out of the bag. And here's what it looks like after I'm starting to chop up. Guys, if you do nothing else, get this onion and pepper bag from the Dollar Tree. It's $1. Look, there's orange, red, yellow, and green bell peppers. Look, my Walmart right now for orange, red, and yellow wants $2.99 one pepper. They think I'm going to be paying $9 plus the 50 cents they want for a green one just because I want something to look nice? No, no, no. I'm going to the dollar store for $1. And since we're making this meal twice, since we already had the veggies out, the knife out, the cutting board, go ahead and cut up the other half of the bag. That way it'll just save you from having to clean up that same stuff again. Alright, so what I'm doing is I'm sweating these vegetables out. Now, if we had been using fresh vegetables, I wouldn't have to do any of this. We could have just maybe lightly sauteed them because I don't really like the bite. I mean, if you like raw pepper and onions, by all means, just chuck them in your, into the dish. But I like to saute them even just for just a tad. That way we don't have quite that raw bite, because this is not going to take very long to cook. So, but what I'm doing, because these are frozen, I am sweating out the extra moisture, and it's already evaporated almost all of the moisture that was coming out of these. I didn't do anything, no butter, no salt, no nothing, just having them naturally sweat out and cook off that extra, because we just don't want a mushy impossible pie. These look great, and now that they're starting to kind of stick just a hair, I think we've got just about all of the moisture out that we need. Okay, and we have a 4-ounce package of ham. I'm going to cut this in half and use half of this and save the other half for our second pie. And then we have 5 ounces of mild cheddar, this cute little block. And this is real cheese. If you get the shredded bag at Dollar Tree, it's not real cheese, and I'd rather use the real stuff. So we're going to take half of this and grate it. All right, I have everything laid out ready to go. We have our 4 eggs. I have cut up 15 olives, give or take. I mean, if you like them, great. If you don't, leave them out. Substitute something else. It'll still be fabulous. 1 cup of Italian-style breadcrumbs. And again, if you're really watching your carbs, you can leave that out and it'll turn into basically a crustless quiche. I have 1 cup of our whole milk, but if your Dollar Tree only has 2%, use that. If your Dollar Tree only has evaporated milk, use that. We need 1 cup. I did the 2 ounces of the ham, and then I did the 2.5 ounces of cheese, and really it makes a lot more than you think it's going to. All right, I'm going to mix the milk in with my eggs and give that a good whisk, and then we will build this quiche. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is take my pie pan. It can be whatever one you use, just a standard pie plate is fine. This is the one I could get to fastest, and the easiest without moving a ton of stuff. So this is what we're using today. I always generally give this one a really good spraying because it's not non-stick. So, okay, I'm going to take my 1 cup of crumbs, pour that in there, and I'm going to kind of push it around a little bit, coat everything, because this is going to turn into our quote-unquote crust. And again, if you don't want to use this, if you're really watching your carbs, just leave this out. It's going to be, a quiche, I keep saying this, a crustless quiche. So you could certainly just leave it out if you want to. Our oven is at 350 degrees. It's preheating while we do this. All right, that's good enough. All right, in the original directions, they had, basically mix it all together and then pour it all in. Well, that just meant the vegetables kind of clumped all in one area. Yeah, I don't like that. So I'm going to go ahead and place everything in here. I'm just going to kind of sprinkle it around. And if you have sausage, if you'd rather do sausage, they do have breakfast sausage, which is very tasty. It's not like overly sweet like maple or anything like that. That would be good crumbled in here if you'd rather do that instead of the ham. The chub is like 7 ounces, so you could certainly split that in half between the two dishes. Sometimes, I mean, I saw it like once, the little, the tiny little pepperoni. That would be good also. Okay, and again, if olives are not your thing, this recipe was originally called something like Magic Pizza, something like that. So, I mean, really, you're supposed to be making, like pizza kind of toppings here. If you had sun-dried tomatoes, oh, that would be really good in here. Just make sure that there's the oven on cue. Just make sure that whatever you're using in here is not really all that laden with liquid. I mean, don't put in like fresh, like mushrooms. They'll sweat out too much. Okay, I'm going to do half of my cheese. And you know what? 2.5 ounces really turns out to be quite a little bit of cheese. Then, excuse my reach, I'm going to reach over for my veggies. And this is what they cook down to, Okay, and excuse my hands, but I just want to place these where I want them to, not where my spatula is going to kind of clunk them down. These are nice and cooled off at this point. And so really for customizing, I mean, as long as you sweat out your vegetables, so you're not going to end up with a big old soupy mess in here, you can use pretty much, whatever you have available to you and that you like on your quote-unquote, pizza. So this is more of a really, kind of more of a traditional, almost like a Denver omelet, if you will, right? All right, so we have our milk and our 4 eggs. Okay, and now if you don't want to put any seasoning in your liquid mixture, you don't have to. I like to do garlic salt and a little bit of pepper. I like to have a little bit of punch. Now we're going to carefully pour this over. Just don't plunk it all in here because you don't want to mess up everything you've just worked so hard to scatter around nicely. We're going to pour that in. And if it goes above your crust, it's fine. I mean, it's not, it's an idea of a crust, right? I mean, it's not like crust. All right, and then I'm going to take that last little bit that I saved. And I tell you what, the very first time I made pretty much this recipe, all of my vegetables, because they said just put it all in like one thing and then plunk it in, all of my vegetables ended up like right here.
Can you say yum? Fresh out of the oven. Look at that thing. We're going to give it just a few minutes to calm down. It will deflate a little bit, which is kind of depressing, but it's still tasty good. And I'll show you what it looks like on a plate. And oh my gosh, it's ready for dinner. Filling and satisfying, and you get a nice big helping. Whether you call it an impossible pizza or a quiche, or if you leave the breadcrumbs out, you can even call it a really, really low-calorie meal. But all in all, it'll fill that tummy, and it's nice and full of veggies. It is fabulous. The first thing we're going to do with our meal is prep our pinto beans. So at the Dollar Tree, they are 24 ounces, 1.5 pounds of pinto beans. And this is something that you do not want to skimp on. And it's not going to take that much time, but we need to sort these beans. We're looking for specifically rocks and dirt. What you don't want to do is trying to be, thrifty and spend, saving money on food and then crack a tooth and then have this huge dental bill. So take the time, sort your beans, and if you have anything that looks kind of funky like this one, take it out too. I mean, I'd rather not be sick than have something, you know, ugh. So we're going to go ahead and sort this 1.5 pounds of beans, and then we'll rinse them off and we'll get them in the crock pot. But first, important step, don't skimp here. Make sure you sort your beans. I was really lucky. We didn't find any rocks in this bag. Usually I find, you know, like 1 or 2 pretty good size rocks that you know, they're usually around the size of the bean, so they make it through their sorting process. But this is a natural product, guys, and I can't stress it enough. Always sort your beans. Now let me get my strainer out and let's get these rinsed off.
I have my strainer. I'm going to go ahead and give these a really, really good rinse, and then we'll get them in the crock pot. Into our rinsed beans, I'm going to add 10 cups of water. And before we get it cooking, we're going to add some cumin. I'm just kind of eyeballing it because I'm going to adjust afterwards for the dishes that we're using, but I just want to give it a little flavor. Garlic. Again, I'm just giving it a little sprinkle, just a little something something in the water. I don't want it to be boring. Onion powder. And if you don't have any of these spices in your spice cabinet, black pepper, Dollar Tree does in fact have great prices on spices. And we're going to give this a pretty good dose of salt. Pepper, salt, onion powder, garlic powder, can't go wrong with that. Give everything a good stir. Now if you had onions that you'd like to add or any extra garlic cloves laying around, get those all minced up and toss them in here. That would be excellent too. All right, we're going to cook this on high for about 5 to 5.5 hours until the beans are tender.
5 hours later, and the beans are nice and tender. This recipe made about 10 cups of beans, and we're going to save 4 cups for another recipe. And I'm going to smash the remaining beans, and I'm going to add a little bit of the cooking liquid as we go, about 1/4 cup at a time, until I get the desired consistency I'm looking for.
Okay, we're going to make a quick and simple bean and cheese quesadilla. We're going to take a nice generous scoop of our beans. We're going to fold this over. It's a little easier to manage than putting 2 tortillas together. We're going to spread our beans out. Give us a nice sprinkle of cheese. We're going to put just a little bit of salsa, because I like that on mine, little paste picante sauce. Fold this over. Now, if you have any onions and peppers left, saute those, throw those in there. We're going to have olives during the week, and always hold a few of those out and put some of those on. The sky's the limit here. We're going to fold this over, press this down a little bit, make a good seal, and I'll see you at the frying pan. Okay, I'm starting with a nonstick pan. I'm going to use some cooking spray. I'm on about medium heat right now. I'm going to add just a teeny bit of our margarine for just a little extra flavor. I'm going to go ahead and put our tortilla in, and I'm going to go ahead, or put our quesadilla in rather. I'm going to go ahead and kind of move that around, make sure all of that buttered margarine gets, I mean, if you have butter, use butter. If you're using the margarine from the Dollar Tree, use that. It'll add a lot of nice flavor. I'm going to give it a flip. Ooh, look at that. That is perfect. Golden brown. Again, I'm going to move this side around so it gets lots of goodness. And if you don't want to have, you know, any of the butter or the oil or anything in your pan, just leave it out. If you have a good nonstick, just give it, I mean, just a hair of a spritz of your nonstick and you'll be good to go. We like that nice kind of buttery golden. But either way will work just fine. Okay, we're going to give this just probably another minute on the other side. We'll give this a good cut and we'll get this plated up with our rice. Okay, to start our Spanish rice, we're going to heat 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil or corn oil or whatever neutral oil you have. We're going to add 2 cups of long grain white rice, and we're going to cook this over medium-high heat until we have nicely toasted brown color on our rice, and then we'll start adding our liquids and spices. After about 3 minutes, you can tell it's getting nice and golden brown. Look at that color. Okay, when we get to this point, we're going to go ahead and add 4 cups of water. It's starting already. With 1 teaspoon of chicken bouillon. Be careful here. Because that is bubbling. We're going to use half of our can of tomato sauce. We're going to save that other half for another recipe. Sorry, I'm working in my kitchen here. Okay, we have 1 teaspoon of salt. We have a pinch of cumin. Really, it's going to turn out to be about 1/8 of a teaspoon. We have 1/8 of a teaspoon of garlic powder and a literal pinch of pepper. I mean, I just took my fingers and pinch, and that's what I did. Okay, let's give this a really good stir. Get everything combined. And like I said, be careful when you add that water. You're going to have some sizzling and popping, and you certainly could have a nice flare up, so be careful. Okay, and once this comes to a boil, we're going to go ahead and put a lid on it. We're going to drop the heat down to a simmer. And, you know, we're going to cook about 30 minutes, depending on your rice and whatnot. I mean, this could take like 40 minutes, but figure 30 to 40 minutes. We're going to let it simmer and get all nice and incorporated and have some wonderful Spanish rice. For us, after 35 minutes, we ended up with beautiful Spanish rice.
Bean and cheese quesadillas. It's what's for dinner.
We're going to get started on our salmon. I have a few tablespoons of olive oil in here. You can use whatever oil you want. I have a little bit of our margarine just for a little extra interest here. Okay, and what I'm going to do is at the Dollar Tree you can get a 4-piece wild caught salmon for $1. It's pretty good size. I thawed it out in the refrigerator, patted it dry, and my favorite seasoning is this one, Old Bay. Love Old Bay. All right, so we're going to do this guy here. We're going to put him flesh side down. Try to push it down so you make contact. And we're going to cook this for about 3 minutes. Sorry, I'm going to rinse my hand off. All right, and if some of you say, you know, there's only one here. Okay, and here's why. There's only one person in my family that's going to eat this. So usually on this night, we have 1 fish, and then I usually buy 3 of the pork chops or 3 of the little steaks, which are very, very interesting to cook too. It's really fast. So anyway, But if you want to do, instead of fish, this meal, you can use any of the proteins. So I have a great recipe for smothered pork chops if you don't want just pan fried, and I'll link that somewhere here for you, either somewhere flying around in here or down below for sure. So we're going to do this for 3 minutes, and then we're going to flip it just for a couple of more, and this salmon will be done. It's been 3 minutes. Let's give it a flip. Oh, look at that. I'm going to give that some crispy skin. I want to get my lens here. Give my reach, gang. You're going to see my hand for a minute. We are popping, and I do not want to have the camera. See, look at it. It's sizzling like crazy. All right, there we go. Calm down. So I'm going to give this just a few minutes on this side, and then we're going to plate. Catch of the day, all plated up and ready to go. Mashed potatoes, mixed veggies, and wild-caught salmon. Okay, gang, this is a really easy one. This is my easy cheesy broccoli rice. In my rice cooker, I did 2 cups of rice, 2.5 cups of water, and 1 teaspoon of the chicken bouillon, and I just cooked it on the white rice. If you have brown rice, use that. Our Dollar Tree didn't have any, so okay. So to this, now if you don't have a rice cooker, do this on the stove, because this is going to be a one-pot recipe, whether you do it in this thing or a stove. So we're going to add the 2 tablespoons of butter or margarine. I have a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. I have 1/8 of a teaspoon of black pepper. And because I've already used the bouillon in here, I have a 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. And we can always adjust that later on. But let's get this melted a little bit. Get some of that richness going on in here. Get those spices. And you don't want to like totally beat this to death, you know, just kind of let the rice melt that butter for you. And this is a really, again, this is pretty versatile depending on your tastes. And let me show you what we're going to do now. Okay, I had one package of the broccoli florets. Okay, I thawed them and cut them into smaller pieces. And the warm rice should really warm those up. I'm going to close the lid. Now, here is where you can have some liberty here. Well, obviously, if your kids absolutely will not eat this broccoli, get the mixed medley. It's corn and peas and green beans. That would work too. I mean, the whole idea is to get it all in the one pot and have it be flavorful and fabulous. All right, and then we're going to add the other sausage that we saved from earlier in the week. I'm going to use that. Oh, it smells so good, that garlic. And again, you know, if that is not your vegetable of choice and your kids won't eat it, pick something else. I mean, they have quite a few. Okay, now we have a little bit of Parmesan left from our meals earlier. We're going to throw that in. It's probably a little less than 1/4 cup. A couple tablespoons is fine. Okay, and here is the other. I had half of a block of that little cheddar cheese, so this makes about a cup. But if you want something a little more kid-friendly, creamy kind of going on, they do have this little packet, it's about that big, of Velveeta sauce. That would also be fantastic in here. This is a little bit more, you know, grown up, a little less processed, So that's what I'm going to use in here, but we have done the Velveeta. I mean, come on, who doesn't love Velveeta, right? Yum. Look at how this looks right here. Oh, it's already melting the cheese. Yum. And that is super duper. One pot, easy cheesy broccoli rice. It is a no-brainer. It's easy to make. Let me grab my fork. That's perfect.
Well, friends, that was our Dollar Tree Extreme Grocery Challenge. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 4 people, 84 meals for just $37. This was week number 1. Stay tuned for week number 2. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. We really appreciate it. Until next time, be safe, be well. We'll see you soon.